We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
What does it mean to truly come home to yourself as a man, especially when the world is telling you that who you are is wrong? Hey, everybody, it's Boysen. Welcome back to the Mankind Podcast, where we dive into the messy, beautiful, evolving reality of being a man today. Today's episode, I sit down with Cator Sparks. Cator is a certified professional coach, a longtime leader in GBTQ men's spaces, and a man with a huge heart. We talk about his personal journey, from losing his job, going through divorce, to finding purpose in men's work and coaching. And along the way, Cator found something powerful: what it means to create space for men, especially queer men, to be fully seen, heard, and held. We dig into why GBTQ plus specific circles are vital, not to separate, but to offer a sense of safety, truth-telling, and real connection. Cator talks about running sober, sex-free retreats for queer men where joy, vulnerability, and belonging are the norm, not the exception. And we don't shy away from some tough stuff. This conversation touches on the fear and grief and rage so many queer folks are carrying right now in a world that feels increasingly hostile. But through it, what Cator brings and what this episode is really about is hope, resistance, and determination. Hope through chosen family, through honesty, through refusing to give up joy. And it's also about dancing. Whether you're queer in any way or straight, this is a great conversation. If you've ever felt that knot in your gut when something doesn't feel right about the judgments out there in society, there's some wisdom in that. That is the work. And it starts with finding people who can hold you as you untangle it. So settle in. This conversation is very raw, real, and full of heart. Welcome to the Mankind Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's Boysen Hodgson with the Mankind Podcast, the show where we set out to prove week on week, and I think we're doing an incredible job, that there is more than one way to be a man. Today, I'm sitting down with Cator Sparks. Cator is a life coach and a guy who's been involved in men's work for a long time. He and I met at a thing called the Boys Club, which is what a clever play on words, which is a big convening that has been brought together based out of New York City. And I've met some really interesting folks, and this is the second or third podcast interview that's come out of there. So Cator, say hello.
Hey guys, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me, Boysen.
I'm excited for this conversation. I think it's going to be really fun. So let me tell you a little bit about Cator. Cator Sparks is an ICF certified CPCC, which is a certified professional coactive coach. He has a focus on men, all men. And through his years of coaching men, he's found joy in genuinely connecting to help shake the beehive that is life. I love that phrase. To help men set goals, hold them accountable, watch them heal, and come home to their true selves. Cator thinks it's time to retire the phrases, boys don't cry, grow a pair, man up, and winners never quit, and rethink what it's like to be a modern man. Now, that resonates very, very much with the messages that we bring forward here on the Mankind Podcast. So first of all, let's go backwards a little bit to go forwards. What got you into men's work, and then what got you into coaching?
Yeah, well, I lost a job, and I divorced my husband, and so there we go. I had no job, I had no partner, and I was like, "What am I going to do with my life?" And there was lots of drama in all of that space as well, and definitely dealt with some alcoholic issues with folks in my life, and so I went to I was living in Charleston, but I used to live in New York City for 20 years, and I used to go to Ananda Ashram up in Tuxedo Park. It's like my happy place. And so I went to Ananda for a week and sat with it, and it makes me teary eyed. Just thought, like, what am I going to do in this big beautiful life? And life coaching really came to me. I had a life coach for 10 years, Baker Gendron. She's amazing. She's based in Sedona. And she shook my beehive. And I was sitting with all these amazing people, and I just, I would share, like, I want to support people, I want to help people grow, I want to help gay men. And they're like, do it. Like, what are you waiting for? And, we always think sometimes like we're too old to start something new. I don't know, I was 43 or something. I'm 49 now. Like, I'm too old to start a new career. Like, screw that. We're never too old to start something new. So that's why I kind of had this moment of clarity. I came home, found the coaching school I wanted to go to, and signed up and started. And it all just fell into place, Boyson. It was so beautiful. I met people from Everyman pretty soon after I joined. I started my coaching work, and then I started working with Boone Health. We do coaching for bigger businesses. We help coach the employees.
Oh, cool.
And I started my own practice. And the first time, so I've always loved, it's funny, I was a menswear editor in New York City. So I worked for the New York Times and style.com and all this, and I covered menswear for years. So I always loved working with these menswear designers and hearing their stories. And I mean, it was like therapy and coaching at that point too. And I would, I knew so much about the industry. I would help them with ideas of what to do and who to talk to. And, I was always connecting people. And so when I decided I wanted to work with men, it was really beautiful. And then also working with gay men, when I worked with my first gay life coach, it was just like, a curtain lifted. Like, how have I never talked to another gay man about my issues and about my feelings and about gay shit? Like, I've never had this opportunity to talk to another gay man about sex and coming out and shame and all that. And, Baker's great, therapists are great, but none of them understood my story, which so many gay men have such similar stories. And even just basics of gay sex, and no one's there to talk about that kind of stuff. And it was really liberating. And so when I realized that, I'm like, oh wow, this is awesome. Like, this is the track. Like, definitely I love working with all men, but it's really special to work with gay men. We have a connection that we're a minority that gets each other in many ways.
That's probably a great place to go. So Mankind Project, like Everyman, like other organizations out there, they are still majority straight dudes in these spaces. And in the Mankind Project, and I'll just, talk about us as an organization, third person a little bit. In the Mankind Project, we have had an active GBTQ kind of constituency group for 20 something years now, and started running dedicated GBTQ training programs, dedicated GBTQ groups, all of this stuff. And there's still this outside perspective amongst straight guys in the organization. Is like, there's kind of this undercurrent of, why do gay men need a space? So talk more about that. Dive into, like, what happens, what can be created in those spaces where queer men are together to see each other.
Right. Well, do you ever ask a Black person that? Like, why do you need your own space? I'm sure someone asked that question, but
yeah,
they do.
oh yeah, they do.
Oh Lord. But we all need our spaces, and let's start with the fact that most of us were bullied by straight men. Straight men were our bullies. So me going to Everyman the first time and sitting in a circle with 45 dudes who were mostly straight, that was a lean in for me, and that was scary. At the same time, now that I run GBTQ retreats, being in a circle of gay men can also be scary, because we can be our own worst critics to each other, we use the word shade a lot in our community, and that is it can be funny, but it also can be very real. And there's a lot of negativity towards each other because of that bullying and, that feeling of less than. So yeah, I run the GBTQ group in Everyman once a week. We've been together for 5 years now, and we're actually going to do not even a retreat. We're just getting a get together at one of the guys' farms in the fall. And it's such a special space, because we can say, like, we can talk about, from I was bullied by my dad to oh my gosh, I'm in a polyamorous relationship, or oh my gosh, what is, what's this new thing called being a side instead of being a top or a bottom, or all these things that straight men have no idea what we're talking about, in some of these situations. And so it just feels good. And, I also agree that we should always all be in the same circle as well. I love my circles. I'm also in a men's group with every man that's mostly straight guys. It's great. We go deep, we connect, but it's really special to have that space for queer men to come together and connect and grow with each other and feel safe. And something that we talk about a lot in my retreat is that, my retreat specifically doesn't have sex or alcohol or drugs or psychedelics. And everyone who came to
Yes.
this retreat says, thank you. Like, I don't want to go to a retreat where there's sex. And hey, there's plenty of them, which are great, I'm sure, or I don't want to do psychedelics, or I don't want to drink. And this is the gay men, that's our only spaces, are bars, dance clubs, and bathhouses. So a safe space that is with no sex, drugs, and alcohol, what a beautiful place just to get connected and grounded with each other. And I listen, I hear this from straight men too. Like, we want community, we miss community. My handyman was just texting me the other day, like, man, I want to find more community and straight dudes I can connect with. And but gay men want that too, and it's really hard for us to find that in a lot of spaces because gay men are so used to having bars and clubs and bathhouses and all that. So that is the work that that is my goal, is having these spaces where men can come together and have that community, which is so needed.
Let's go a little, zoom out a little from where we're at. And I've stalked your Instagram a little bit and watched some of your videos over the last period of time. And something that you said in a few videos was the world's on fire. Let's talk about what it's like to be LGBTQ plus, but GBTQ today, because it seems to me like the last year, less than a year, there's a different vibe out there, and it feels like a more threatening world.
Mm-hmm.
What are you noticing, and is there anything that you're noticing coming up in the spaces with GBTQ men that stands out to you?
Well, I mean, this is where I do get emotional. We're sad. I can't believe we have to do this again. I can't believe family members who are trying to tell me that this is, that this president is, not against us. I mean, I've had people my whole life tell me, oh, well, it's not that bad. I'm like, you don't live it, and I'm a privileged white guy, fuck my black trans friends. This is scary. And it really upsets me because we live in a really scary time. And I'm not trying to be over dramatic or anything like that. But when you see them pulling off, the T from LGBT at Stonewall, and you see them erasing things on websites, and you see them taking away HIV medication, where are we? This is terrifying. And it's sad, I mean, we could go into these people call themselves Christians, but I don't see what would Jesus do? I don't see him doing this. And so it's so hard. But at the same time, this is where we come together, and this is where the queer community. I remember RuPaul said he had a podcast for a while, and he said, back in the 80s when everything was so fucking dark, we danced a lot. And like, that's what we do. We protest, we write letters, we donate, but we also come together and find community and support each other and uplift each other. And I'm on a WhatsApp group that says, like, so-and-so can't get their hormones this week. Who can help? Like, who can send some money? Someone needs the rent. Who needs some money? What a beautiful way to uplift each other. Like, that is the grassroots that so many queer people are really, really good at. I'm sorry we're here. It makes me sick, but I'm also really proud of our community, of how we come together.
Thank you. And I think that there's something, I've seen that in Black spaces and queer spaces over the last few years, like this just absolute refusal to give up joy.
Mm-hmm.
The refusal to give up, as you said, dancing. Like, no, we're not going to give it up. We're not going to give up the joy of being who we are.
Absolutely not. We've
Even
always
in
been
a
here.
time when it's always been here. Yes. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. It seems to me that, and I kind of hope, and I'm kind of crossing my fingers, right? So my kids, I have had the opportunity, honor, privilege of being able to march in Pride in Boston with my kids,
Mm-hmm.
who are both queer in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that there's some level of the origins of Pride are going to hit different this year
Oh yeah.
than they have in the last few years. You said something in our last phone call about that? It's like, let's go back to the roots of what Pride was about to begin with.
Right. Like, this is our Black Lives Matter right now. We're seeing how people are trying to take away our rights, and we're like, no, 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 no. This is who we are. And yeah, we were talking about how, all of a sudden Target is not a part of Pride, and Deloitte isn't part of Pride, and Facebook isn't part of Pride. Girl, screw you. We do not need you in our parade. We have never needed you to know who we are. And that's what I love about queer people. There's a new march called Queer Liberation in New York. It's been going on for a while now,
Ooh.
but there's no sponsors. It is just queer people marching and celebrating ourselves and uplifting ourselves and showing the world that we're here. I don't need Coca-Cola to do that. I don't need Facebook or Instagram to do that, you know? And it was cute to see them in there, and oh my gosh, this is so great. But now they're all pulling out because they're scared of the regime. Okay. Yeah, no, we see you. We know where we're shopping.
we we notice, we see you. Yeah. So when you there's I think we're kind of touching on it, but let's go, a little bit more meta. In men's work, in culture, when you look around as a coach and working with men, what are some of the kind of heteronormative frames that you think we're still stuck in men's work, especially because we talk a lot about that in on the podcast?
Right, right. Yeah, I think it's so funny because it can go both ways from like how queer people see straight men and vice versa. But I think one of the biggest things is truly understanding a group of people. you know I know that there's a lot of allies. I've met a lot of allies, but they don't truly understand like pronouns. They're like, I don't get it. I'm like, well, how about you try? How about you ask questions? That's your privilege, of just saying I don't get it. Or understanding trends, or understanding, you know do you want to get into understanding our sex lives? Like, is that something that's interesting to you? That I don't, not that you need to know about it, but it's, if you hear two gay men talking, maybe lean into curiosity instead of disgust, because listen, we hear about your sex lives all the time. So don't shut out and tune us out because that brings you fear, or we're going to think you're gay. We're asking a question. This is a brotherhood. And that's what's the beauty of men's work, is we're all here to support each other and uplift each other. And if I'm having issues with my partner or a polyamorous relationship, like, I hope you could be receptive to hearing it and not be freaked out and weirded out to hear what's going on in my non-heteronormative environment. um, I think it's continuing the education, continuing the learning of who we are, because I hear so many people like, oh, gay people have it, like, you got marriage. I'm like, okay, we got that. It could be revoked, but there's 3,000 other things happening to the queer community that we need support in. And I think just having a little more open mind, and that's the beauty of this men's work, is just connecting to each other and talking about that, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think that's definitely true. I have noticed in myself over the years, there are some of us straight guys also out here who also went through the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And the 80s toxic homophobia of the 80s got imprinted on me, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I was bullied for being gay and wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of straight guys that also went through that. And so undoing the homophobia that I embedded in myself because of that has been like one of the most liberating things that's happened to me in doing men's work.
Beautiful.
Is to look at that part of myself that would reject, that would push away, that would do all of this bullshit around, no, I'm I'm whatever I am, right? To just now 20 years in to be able to quite literally like sink into the arms of another man
Mm-hmm.
and be like held in that space and not resist and
Right.
not try and push away and be aware of who I am and be aware of who the men I'm with are. And that's still really, really countercultural out there
Right.
in the world.
Very well. And to flip the script, this is what we talk a lot about in our gay men's group of like, if I do go up to a straight man to give them a hug, is he going to think I think he's hot? Do it? Our internalized homophobia kicks in. Like sometimes I'm scared to hug a straight man. Like, is he going to think, oh my God, he's coming on to me? Like, and also, I have straight clients, and I remember one of them I asked, like, hey, just out of curiosity, like, what brought you to me? You know, also because a lot of my websites about queer men. He's like, I didn't even look at, I didn't even think of, I didn't even cross my mind. I just thought you were a great coach. And to me, that's almost shocking for a straight white man to think like, oh, like you didn't see that or you don't care about that. Like that's my internal homophobia that I was, bullied for my, most of my life about that. So it works both ways. It's fascinating. And that's why we're still doing this work, right?
That's why we're still doing this work, right? Yes. And I also see, and curious about what else you see out there. So my kids are 21 and 18, and their interaction with their kind of comfort with sexuality, gender, orientation, all of that stuff is just like, so what to them on some level. And that's been really wild growing up the way that I grew up. And now with them, it's like girlfriends, boyfriends, they friends, all the friends,
Right.
whatever, and it's like not a thing. And that I love seeing that.
Yeah.
What other signs of hope do you catch out in the world?
Oh gosh, I was going to go the other way because I do see so much hope.
Yeah,
I do see so much hope in that, and that they, all these kids don't care. And, I just moved back to Atlanta and I was out kind of the suburbs, actually Forsyth County, where I think Oprah Winfrey had a show one time where the Ku Klux Klan came and started throwing rocks. And I saw a group of black boys in afros with bows in their hair. I was like, this is Forsyth County? Yes, this is amazing, And so we have these, we are changing. And I was all happy, happy, joy, joy until the election. And we see how many young straight men are going so far right again because they don't feel seen or unheard with all of this new understanding of the world happening. Where do I fit in? Oh, wait a minute. Let me go listen to this podcast and, and take the red pill. And so that's what really scares me is like, my Baker, my life coach I mentioned, when he got elected the first time, she said, she's of course very spiritual, and she said the angels are laughing at us because we thought we had figured it out. Obama was president, all is good in the world, we're done with our work. And they're laughing because like, oh honey, the work just began, and here we're in round 2, the work is still going, there's a lot of work to be done. And I think we're doing it. I think there will be a shift. When has evil ever won? And the history of the world, it's never won.
Yeah.
So
right.
We go through a lot of dark times, but we'll get there. I'm optimistic. I know it's going to happen. It's going to be rough, but just seeing these kids brings me so much joy. And I in Charleston, I worked I was a board chair of We Are Family, which is a queer youth organization, especially in a small town like Charleston. And we had all sorts of kids, and of every binary possible. And it was just beautiful to watch them blossom. And so I'm always there to support queer youth because they need it. And if, the internet's good and bad. You can find places like We Are Family, but you can also find stalkers, and people to tell you that you're terrible. So, I think queer youth really needs our help, especially right now. They see all this stuff that's happening and they're like, what? This is not what we wanted in our future.
Yes. Yes.
What's up, everyone? Now, here on the Mankind Podcast, I talk a lot about building physical health, emotional resilience, but lately, I've been thinking more about mental wealth. Those daily deposits that keep my mind clear, calm, and creative. And honestly, one of the easiest shifts I've made has been adding Magic Mind into my mornings. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot that helps me kick off the day with intention, without the spike, and without the crash. It's packed with clean, natural nootropics and adaptogens like lion's mane and ashwagandha, the stuff that's been backed by science and used for centuries. Now, what I've noticed first was focus, but what kept me coming back was how even my energy has felt all day. So if you want to get your hands on this stuff and give it a shot, head to magicmind.com and use the code MANKINDMAY. That's MANKINDMAY for 20% off your first order. Links will be in the show notes. You got to get your hands on this stuff. You will not regret it.
There's so much about kids in there. And there's a lot of projections onto, I noticed from my generation, lots of projections onto Gen Alpha about, being whatever, lots of stereotypes thrown onto Gen Alpha. But this kind of point that we're talking about, like, there is an incredible amount of courage in these kids to just say, fuck you, we're being who we are.
Right. Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
Which confuses the hell out of us. Some folks. Confuses the hell out of some folks.
Right. Well, I mean, yes, but I also think that's been going on for so long. I mean, I was wearing pigtails and stickers on my face in 1994 when I came out at 18 and I was a raver, and I would walk around Atlanta and people would look at me like, like I was an alien. And there were so many of us back then. And then you think of, RuPaul back in the, early 70s coming out wearing hot pants and, driving across country. I mean, when you have authenticity, you can't hide it. And so many of these kids have just learned to live in their authentic selves, which I think is so beautiful. It's hard, but it's beautiful.
It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So encouragements for, do you have some encouragement for, I'm going to pick on us some more. Do you have encouragements for straight dudes trying to step into their authenticity?
It is truly finding community like what we do here. I don't think it's rocket science, but if you want to lean into whoever you are, like, you need a space where you feel comfortable doing that. And most men don't. Yeah. We don't have a men's circle. I mean, when my dad took his life a couple of years ago, and on a side note, you were talking about, all these different groups and Gen Alpha and all this. And like, he was conservative, but he was always asking me so many questions. He was always very accepting of me being gay, but he would text me like, what do Arabs think about gay people? I'm like, do you want me to ask my 5 Arab gay friends? What? I don't know. Like, no, none of us are a monolith, so I can't help you.
Oh, that's good. Yes. Right.
But like, when he died, some of his friends sent me these like pictures and stories of him of just like living his life. And it was really beautiful. It wasn't a man I knew. And he would like wear stupid outfits and go into gas stations and pretend he was blind and his friend would help him and they would steal a Kit Kat or something dumb. And what I realized is that my dad was taking care of his inner child. He was called stupid growing up. My grandmother held his head to the Oral Roberts television and said, heal him, he's stupid. He went to the military. He was in Vietnam. Oh, so much tragedy, so much trauma that he never got any help with. And he took his life at, 68. And I did a big psychedelic journey to honor him and process his death, and it was both of our inner children playing with each other. It was really fucking beautiful, and I wish I could have had that with him. I wish we could have had that inner child moment in real life, you know. And I don't think he could ever take down his guard to do that. He could do it with his friends, which I'm so happy he had that space. But you're asking like where men can be authentic and vulnerable. It's with people that you trust and you feel safe with. And that can be really hard to find for all of us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for talking about your dad. That was beautiful.
Thank you. I miss him.
What do you think are some of the pieces looking out? And you know what? First of all, let me own my own blind spot. Or I've been painting straight guys as kind of monolithic in this conversation, and that's unfair.
Right.
That's really unfair. Yes. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for kind of calling that out and calling to attention. Like I can speak for myself, and I can kind of, I'm speaking in stereotypes, and stereotypes are not very helpful.
Right.
So find your authenticity, find men who you can start to build trust with, find spaces where you can let your own inner child out to play in a way that feels healthy and affirming and supportive and a little risky and a little challenging.
Totally.
And shakes the bee's nest a little bit, right? Like all of those things.
Yes.
Together. Yeah. What do you think are some pieces that, is there a frontier where when we are sitting in these men's groups, in Everyman, in coaching, in any kind of spaces, what do you think are some of the frontiers that we have in front of us living in this time? That it's like, wow, I'd really love to see us go this direction. I'd love to see us stretch here.
Well, we're so divided, right? I mean, everyone says this till we're numb in the brain. We're so divided, but I don't know how to get to those people. I wish I did. Actually, someone had mentioned about maybe doing a men's retreat. Oh, was it a men's retreat or a phone call or a Zoom of just getting the left and the right together and seeing like in a men's group and seeing what happens. And like, I would do that if I felt safe, but it's so hard. And I don't get on social media and try to talk to people anymore. I used to, but I sometimes did it in love. I remember someone said something really homophobic on something. And I said, hey, do you want to get together and have coffee about it? No, I would never meet you. Well, why not? Because then we can talk about what you think and we can maybe come to I would never do that. Like that's, and it just kept going. I kept offering the peace and they kept negating it. I'm like, okay, I see. You just want to stay in that place of anger and righteousness, Interesting. I had that with someone recently where I kind of wrote them off because I was like, oh, you're not listening to my hurts. You keep defending the right. I can't, there's nowhere for us to continue this relationship. I love you. I'm sorry that this is where you are now, but I just had a rave last weekend for my 49th birthday with 70 of my best friends. So I got people. I got chosen family. I've got love in my life. I don't need someone who doesn't respect my values in my life. I'm good. And I think that's a really powerful thing that we all need to do is say, I see you, I hear you. I'm sorry that's where you are, but I'm out. I'm going to take care of myself. I don't need to sit here and debate with you. I don't need to come to your house for Christmas anymore. I'm good.
Yes. I think we are learning something. And thank you. Yes. Something else that I've learned from watching, from being in circles with people who are not like me is the bravery of being able to create boundaries. Mm-hmm. Right. That's one of the things that I've like taken for, I have so many of the privileges. I have so many of the, wasn't in groups that were being systematically oppressed in any way, right, growing up. So it's like I look out and say, oh, how can you like say no to your your mom? How can you say no to your dad? How can you say no to your brothers? But being in community with folks who are not like me, it's like, holy shit, how fucking brave of you, how courageous of you to be able to create those boundaries, to be safe and to be, to stay connected to yourself.
Well, one of the first things we learn in coaching is who's the most important person in your life. Number one, most important person in my life is me. And if I'm not happy, I'm out. And it's not easy, but I'd rather go spend Christmas with people who are going to bring me joy and comfort and safety than someone who doesn't believe in my values.
Yeah.
Who's not going to respect me. Why do I need to be in their house?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
But
what have we missed?
Well, I wanted to say too,
going.
I said like we're so divided, and it's really hard. And I would love to find a place where we could do that, and I still haven't found it. I think that's really sad. Now, I have to say one thing in men's work that I find really beautiful is politics never come up. And I know there's some right-wing people who come to the retreats I've been at, and it never comes up. And I'm still hugging them. I'm still holding them. They're holding me. And that is the beauty of this work. So, if there's a way for the extremes to come together, I think some of it is men's work. And if politics come up, okay, tell us about that emotion. Why is that coming up for you right now? Why are you so angry about X, Y, or Z? Let's dig deeper. What makes you angry about that?
Yes.
And that's where that's where the work can really happen. But, and I have really noticed that in men's groups, how I don't know the politics of these guys. I think I have an inkling of a couple of them that, and cool that like, you're still sitting here holding me as I'm shaking and crying, and vice versa.
And that might be the key to the transformation, right? That might be the key that unlocks something inside their empathy, inside our compassion for one another in those spaces.
Baby Jesus, I hope so. And we got to get we got to get it from somewhere.
We got to get it from somewhere. Somebody who I'm tracking lately and really want to get onto the podcast if I can, Dr. Ray Johnson, who is like queer somatics. So a queer woman of color who works with other people on understanding the somatic impacts of oppressive systems in our bodies. And in her work, she talks a lot about, like, not only is it that, right? So for me, if I know I'm in a circle with somebody who's like hard right, very, very different than my value set, very, very different than the way that I live in the world, there's also an opportunity for me to say, okay, where's the stuck places in my body? Where's the part of me that wants to attack, oppress, dominate, restrict, be violent toward, like all of this stuff that's in me, when I'm triggered by this kind of stuff, when I'm activated. Trigger's a trauma word, right? When I'm activated, emotionally activated by somebody who I'm sitting in, like, there's work for me there too, to figure that out, because I've been, I have arrogantly dismissed people through my life that I have something to learn from.
100%.
In many cases.
I love that. I think that's so important. I remember, I grew up in Atlanta. I grew up in the 70s. There was lots of racist conversations that I heard growing up, yes, I will say I said some of that stuff when I was 8, 9, and 10, because it was what was taught to me, and I always remember a knot in my stomach when I would say it. That's somatics right there, right? Like, this doesn't feel right. This should not, but I'm told it's right, but I'm told everyone says these people around me are saying it's okay, so I should say it, right? Or I remember someone when I was young saying, like, look at all those, I'm not going to use the F word, like marching in that parade in tutus, and how stupid. And I was like, yeah, stupid. and I just remember such a big knot. And I truly didn't understand, like, why are these men? I was like, why can't you just dress in coats and ties and like let everyone like just like normalize you and don't be so weird? And then I came out and I was like, give me the tutu. Like, I want to be naked with pearls on and a tiara and running through the streets because I've been oppressed for so long. And so I get it. And then that knot lifts, I don't think I have a knot ever talking now. I really try to speak from the heart and authentically. But I remember when I was younger and these racist things or homophobic things would come up and I would emulate them. Yeah, there was a darkness in my body that I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right, but I'm saying it because I'm supposed to. And so that's real. That's beautiful that she's doing that work. There's so much work there.
There is so much work there for all of us. And I think that maybe is a great, what you just said is really beautiful. So when you feel that knot, right? It's like, there's the work.
Yep.
So whatever those things are that are, going through your thoughts or coming out of your mouth that bring that knot up, there's something to untangle, something to work on, something to do there, and find the people that you trust. Find people that you trust.
Yes.
To start untangling it with.
Right. Amen.
How should people find out more about you and get connected?
My Instagram at Cator Sparks and my website, Cator Sparks Coaching. And that's it. Like I said, I moved to Atlanta in November. I grew up here. I moved back. It has been such a blessing to be back here. I feel so at home just because it is home, but also the queer community here, the diversity here. It is so beautiful to experience, to be a part of. And I have now my own in-house coaching studio. I'm going to start doing retreats at my home. So through GBTQ retreats. So stay tuned. GBTQretreats.com is also the website for the gay men's retreats I do. So
good catch. Nice URL.
I know that. Yes. That was the universe saying it's time.
Yeah, for sure. Cator Sparks, has been a joy to just sit and hang out with you. Thank you, brother. Thank you for showing me your heart in this space.
Such an honor, Boyson. Thank you for having me.
Keep listening to the Mankind Podcast. We'll be back.
This has been the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. And of course, I want to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you make it a heck of a lot easier for us to let men out there in the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if you've been enjoying the music throughout this episode and all of our episodes, check out Jim, Donovan, and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. Now, the fee for this episode is simple. If you found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, remember that life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us, so long as we rip the pen out of fate's hand and become the author of our own story. So my friend, pick up the pen and we'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind Podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.